Welcome back to Pop Pills, the show that remembers when kids' cartoons were made by chain-smoking animators who probably hadn't slept since Reagan's first term.
It feels better.
You sure that stuff is okay?
All I know is the guys who made it are dead. Why is there no hole in this wall?
Men whose idea of work-life balance was switching cigarette brands. Today's dose, the lost, banned, and forgotten cartoons of the 80s and 90s. Back when animation didn't care about politics, parents, or childhood development studies.
My son makes the best teenies.
Peggy, call the police.
Or the concept of liability, for that matter. These shows weren't designed to educate you. They were designed to grab your eyeballs, sell you plastic, and blow your mind. And occasionally, traumatize you just enough to build some character. But somehow, that actually made them better. You didn't just watch these cartoons, you survived them, which actually explains a lot. Cartoons used to be dangerous. Not call your parents dangerous. Your parents shouldn't have let this happen dangerous. Not violent like modern shooters, psychologically dangerous. These shows were basically unlicensed therapists. They were created by adults, fueled by caffeine, deadlines, and really loose FCC oversight. Their only instructions were make it loud, make it fast, and sell toys.
Now I have the power.
And if a kid cries, that just means they're paying attention. In the late 70s, Congress tried to stop toy advertising to kids. Think of it like what we do with cigarettes now.
Have more. 500 cigarettes.
So toy companies said, cool, we'll just make the toy the show. Capitalism doesn't flinch. Capitalism said, bet. Problem solved. Enter He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Thundercats, and G.I. Joe. These weren't cartoons. They were 22-minute commercials with lore, which is still more honest than most modern franchise filmmaking.
What is this place? What is it that you do here? Merchandising. Come, walk this way, take a look.
When you give artists total freedom inside a marketing cage, they start sneaking in ideas. Morality, sacrifice, honor, loss. You learned ethics from characters whose main job was to sell you shoulder pads.
Until we meet again.
Let's take a look at some of the hottest showmercials of the era. G.I. Joe, a real American hero. Ever notice how nobody ever dies? G.I. Joe took place in the safest war in human history. Jets explode, pilots eject, bases vaporize, everyone's fine. Lasers miss like they're being polite. That's not bad writing though. That's FCC mandated immortality. The Geneva Convention, but make it merch friendly. G.I. Joe had to sell war toys, show combat, and kill exactly 0 people.
Kill him. Kill him now.
So, they invented cartoon war physics, where explosions wait their turn. Try writing tension when death is illegal. Alright, quick palate cleanser, because we need to talk about He-Man and Masters of the Universe. Yes, the shirtless barbarian with the bowl cut, looking like Conan after a custody battle. Because on paper, this thing is nothing but a toy commercial. Mattel lost the Star Wars license. They panicked and said, fine, we're gonna make our own myth and just add more muscles. No one said where though, so they added them everywhere.
He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe.
And somehow they accidentally created a moral philosophy class for 8-year-olds. Every episode ends the same way. He-Man literally turns to the camera, breaking the fourth wall like a steroid-powered guidance counselor and says, Today we learned something important. No sarcasm, no joke, just a glowing demigod earnestly explaining honesty, responsibility, or empathy, like your dad subbed in for the teacher and immediately made it weirdly intense.
And you know what? There aren't any magic drugs either. Anytime you take one from anybody but your parents or your doctor, you're taking a very big chance.
And here's the wild part. It frickin' worked, because the show quietly taught kids that power is borrowed, not owned. Strength comes with responsibility, and being strong doesn't make you right. Castle Grayskull isn't even his base. It's ancient, neutral, sacred. He doesn't control the power. He serves it. That's not superhero logic. That's stewardship, which is insane coming from a guy in a furry Speedo. Even Skeletor, who should be pure evil, isn't. He's resentment with a skull face. He loses because he can't grow. He can't let go, and he can't stop blaming everyone else. That's not a villain. That's a warning label. Skeletor is what happens when therapy is optional. And the transformation? That's not a power-up. It's a ritual. Sword raised, higher power invoked, responsibility accepted. This show didn't say you're special. It said you're accountable. All while selling plastic figures with spring-loaded punches.
Oh yeah? Watch this action, Dad.
Which is why He-Man stuck. Not because of nostalgia, but because it treated kids like people who could actually handle meaning. So yeah, He-Man was a toy commercial. But it also taught a generation that strength without character is useless. And being good is harder than being strong. Not bad for a guy whose main strategy was yelling at the sky! But at least he was rewarded for it. 1991, Nickelodeon accidentally drops a cultural grenade. The Ren and Stimpy show. Parents panicked, support groups formed, teachers complained, and executives aged 10 years overnight. And several discovered morality, but only briefly. This show was created by John Crickfalsey. It was basically Looney Tunes run through body horror, gross out close-ups, and images burned into your brain like classified documents. Every frame hand-drawn chaos, every gag pushing taste limits, every episode daring the network to fire everyone involved. Nickelodeon wanted edgy. They just didn't realize what no rules actually meant. The network didn't fire John because the show failed. They fired him because it worked too well.
I am going to have to let you go first.
What? Why?
Why? Well, theft and stealing.
Stealing?
Mm-hmm.
What am I supposed to have stolen?
Post-it notes.
The most corporate ending possible, if you ask me. Kids loved it, adults were horrified, artists were reborn. And without Ren and Stimpy, you ask? No SpongeBob, no Adventure Time, no Rick and Morty. While everyone else chased sugar highs, Bruce Timm and Paul Dini said, what if we respected kids? Art Deco noir, hand-painted dark backgrounds, music, recorded like a feature film. And the performances? Kevin Conroy wasn't voicing Batman, he was haunting him. And Mark Hamill? He didn't play the Joker, he ruined every future Joker forever.
Surprise!
With one exception.
And he says, why so serious?
Rest in peace, Heath. This show dealt with trauma, moral ambiguity, and mental illness and never talked down to you about it. No lectures, no winks, no self-congratulation. If you watch Batman Taz as a kid, that's why you expect more from stories now. This show didn't entertain you, it raised your standards so high, modern TV feels insulting. Early on, they couldn't afford a full orchestral score. But for real, why would a kid's animated cartoon think they needed one? But instead of dialing it back, they actually reused Danny Elfman's music themes. which accidentally made the show feel cinematic, gave a cartoon emotional weight, and it raised the bar so high that no one has cleared it since. That wasn't a cartoon. That was film school with depression.
You're the most depressed person I've ever met, and excuse me for saying this, but I think you need professional help.
America discovered Japan had been animating on a completely different power level.
Power levels 8,000. How? Wait, it's over 9.
Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, Cowboy Bebop, and Akira, they didn't sanitize death. They didn't avoid philosophy. They didn't reset the world every episode. The characters aged, characters failed, characters died, and stayed dead like monsters. For American kids raised on Scooby-Doo logic, this was emotional whiplash.
I'll have whatever he's having.
American kids weren't ready for consequences, but it did something crucial. Anime taught Western studios that stakes matter. You can still sell toys and trust your audience's intelligence. All right, here's a quick reality check. If you think 80s and 90s cartoons were just sugar, lasers, and toy commercials, congrats. You were the intended distraction. And wow, did it work? Because underneath the slime, the capes, and the laser sound effects, these shows were running adult software on a kid-friendly operating system. Animaniacs, the classiest drive-by ever. Animaniacs looked like chaos. What it actually was a writer's room weaponizing the FCC rulebook. Their entire philosophy was simple. If kids don't get it, it ships. If parents get it, bonus damage. That's how you end up with jokes about prints that definitely weren't about fingerprints.
Fingerprints. I don't think so.
Political scandals hidden inside musical numbers, and entire sketches roasting Hollywood agents on a network owned by Hollywood. This wasn't accidental. This was precision bombing adult jokes into Saturday morning cartoons. You could call it Saturday morning war crimes. Animaniacs wasn't for kids. It was for parents trapped on the couch. Rugrats! The kids are fine. The adults are not. You re-watch Rugrats now and something hits you. The babies are thriving, and the parents are drowning. Spiritually, financially, permanently. Stu is a failed inventor chasing one last win. Dee Dee is overcompensating with self-help books and anxiety. And Grandpa Lou, that man has flashbacks.
You're going to the front lines. Oh, conflab it!
That's World War II trauma played for laughs. Kids saw imagination. Adults saw exhaustion. Rugrats is not a baby show. It's a parenthood panic attack with plastic toys. Quick personal detour. Because if we're talking about the lost era of animated madness, I gotta shout out the shows that permanently rewired my brain. These weren't just cartoons, these were personality traits. First up, Captain Bucky O'Hare, a green space rabbit fighting interdimensional space toads in a war allegory that absolutely did not need to go as hard as it did. What made it unique though? Full-blown sci-fi space opera for kids. Military ranks, galactic politics, sacrifice. Way darker than its toy aisle suggested. Next up, Cowboys of Mumesa, which is exactly what it sounds like, and somehow it's still underselling it. What made it unique? Anthropomorphic cows, Wild West gunslingers, post-meteor apocalypse, and literally zero irony. Here's the deep-cut truth. This show came out during the anthro-animal arms race of the early 90s, when networks greenlit anything as long as it had muscles and a species. And yes, it existed entirely to sell toys that barely existed. All right, here we go. SWAT Cats, aka what if Top Gun was made by people who love jets more than plot logic? Blue-collar protagonist, F-14 Tomcat fighter jet, get it? Cyberpunk City, real stakes, People actually got hurt. And here's the deep cut truth. This show was canceled not because kids didn't love it, but because parents complained it was too violent and far too realistic. Read that again. Too realistic. About cats flying fighter jets. This show convinced an entire generation that janitors could steal military aircraft if motivated enough. OSHA literally died watching this show. Now, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the crown jewel. What made it unique? Martial arts, pizza, sewer philosophy, and absolute tonal whiplash. The deep cut truth? The original TMNT comics were violent, gritty, and borderline parody. The cartoon turned that into neon-colored chaos with catchphrases. And somehow, it worked. Also, the reason every villain escaped instead of dying? Broadcast standards, not morality. If you ever wondered why Shredder never won though, it's because toy sales required him to lose forever. If Shredder ever won, the toy aisle would collapse.
But I don't want to conquer this place. I want to conquer Earth.
Cartoons didn't get worse, they just got safer and louder about it. The edges vanished, the chaos vanished, the risk vanished, and yes, modern animation can be incredible. Star Wars, The Clone Wars, arcane, invincible, but that raw, reckless energy, it's gone. Those old shows weren't fearless by accident. They were fearless because nobody thought kids were paying attention. Side effects! Here we go. Side effects may include shouting, "By your powers combined," in public. Belief that pizza beats planning every time. 100% true. All right, guys, so I have some really great ideas.
Yeah, I'm gonna have some problems with that.
Problem solved.
And kids, let me just explain this very important lesson. Wait. No, I haven't explained the lesson yet. Buying vintage action figures you don't need. Rewatching Batman Taz for the 40th time and realizing cartoons used to respect you more than Hollywood does today. If your nostalgia lasts longer than 4 hours, don't call a doctor. That's really freaking weird. Call your local eBay dealer instead. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go watch Captain Bucky O'Hare, pretend I still have Saturday mornings free, and that my cereal was still Fruity Pebbles and not Bran Flakes. Pop Pills! Your prescription for pop culture.